This is Can We Just Talk, the podcast and YouTube series where it doesn't matter if you're living under a rock. We'll fill you in on the past week's biggest, weirdest, and most impactful stories, headlines, and developments in a nice casual conversation. Set your volume and settle in, because coming to you from a random basement in New Jersey, this is Can We Just Talk. Episode 20, the big 2-0, finally made it 20 weeks later as we are journeying on this podcast adventure. The normal crew back: Jacob Berg, myself, Troy DiSavino, Austin DiSavino, Chris Sakonis, Richie Welbrock. This time I kicked him out of the basement. He is upstairs by himself, still slowing the Wi-Fi down. So I apologize for the late start here as we roll out about 13 minutes late, but hopefully we get some people in here sooner than later. We have a pretty big episode. Like I said, it's the big 2-0, so of course we have to have some good stories. First of all, guys, how's everyone doing?
No one's gonna say anything. I mean,
Chris, how are you doing?
With me, it's always the same with me. If Chris is okay, I'm okay. Troy, you know that.
Well, I'm okay, so then you're okay, Richie.
Thanks, Chris. Love to hear it.
Good. Glad to hear that, Chris. Jacob, how you doing?
Oh, not so bad. Happy to be back.
Oh my God, Chris, relax. Just chugging Corona on the screen.
Oh my
God, Chris.
We gotta make it through the podcast.
Children are gonna watch this. What are you talking about? Everyone else is having a beer, but when I have one, it's a big deal. I don't have a beer. I just have a water.
I got water, Chris. This is water.
I
have another scented candle.
Consume alcohol.
I have hand
never will.
I have a water bottle. I have chapstick. I don't have alcohol, okay? Like, think about the children, would you?
You know what I'm drinking, Chris? Sarsaparilla.
I don't even know what that is.
Chris, you know what sarsaparilla is.
The only drink from before Chris's time.
Austin, to wrap it up, how are you?
I'm doing great, buddy. Cheers. Let's have a great episode. The big 2-0.
Cheers to Chris, the big drinker.
The big
Corona.
drinker.
All right, well, guys, big episode. Like I said, the big 2-0, episode 20, finally made it here. I want to kick this one off. Let's get underway immediately. Jacob, I saw the story you presented to the group before tonight's episode. You want to dive right in there?
All right, will do. So my story here is Rafael Alves. He's a UFC fighter. And this week when he was weighing in, he was 11.5 pounds overweight, over his target weight. That is a record for the UFC to miss your target weight by that much. And in fact, I believe he would have been overweight in the next weight class up. So he was 2 weight classes away from where he was scheduled. And I wanted to take this as an example, and I kind of wanted to transition into a little bit different of a theme for our discussion here. But what it really made me think about is some of the things that, athletes have to sacrifice, some of the things we ask for our professional athletes to sacrifice. And I know everyone on this podcast either plays some sport, has been involved in some sport, some more than others, but you're all definitely understand what it's like to go out and compete and put your body on the line. I'm not trying to come at this from a weird angle to make UFC or to make wrestling look bad, because I'm a football player. I recognize that football has risks as well, especially when you talk about concussions and serious injuries. But I think, one thing that this made me think of is, the fact that wrestlers have to cut weight a lot, and they would go days without eating, even at like high school age, to make weight in order to compete. And I kind of just wanted to bring up that kind of sacrifice that athletes make and of their physical health.
Jacob, what never made sense to me? And I lived with a wrestler in college. There was a lot of wrestlers on my floor. But the one thing that I learned, is that everyone was wearing garbage bags. Like, even though the NCAA did not allow it, everyone was sleeping in garbage bags. Everyone was running the tracks in garbage bags, which is crazy unhealthy, right? Just to like cut all that water weight. Like, that's just so bad for you. They were fasting before weigh-in. But what I heard about stories from high school, stories about college, is that like after the weigh-in, it's not like you weigh in and then go out on the mat. Like, you have time. So everyone would weigh in and then just start eating normally, like gorge their food or just starting normally. So it's like, I understand wrestling in the weight classes, but it really is. It's like they want to get so much of an edge, right? So it's like you want to have the most muscle, and be the lightest you can possibly be. But it's crazy what they put themselves through.
This it reminds me of a story, a video I saw a couple of years back that I think was one of the funniest things I've seen that, ESPN posted or whoever, maybe it was Barstool. It was a video. I think it was like collegiate wrestling weigh-in or something like that, or maybe it was UFC. But they did the weigh-in. The guy was like 1.5 pounds over, and they're like, "Sorry, you're 1.5 pounds over." He's like, "Give me 2 minutes," and he came back and he came in under the weight. He came in 2 pounds underweight. So that makes your brain think like, what did this guy do? And that only leads to one option: the guy took a dump off the scene. That's what the sport does to you. It makes you
threw up
cut or threw up. Like, I don't know. I don't think you can force yourself to crap on demand like that. But maybe he was holding it in. He was holding it in as
he's getting a hemorrhoid for that
collateral. He was holding it in as collateral just in case he had to cut some weight. He could do it last minute. But it was literally like less than a minute. The guy walks backstage, like 30 seconds later, he reappears. So it really shows light to what kind of sport this is, to the fact that you have weigh-ins like that. It's crazy. Now, I understand, because how do you have a sport where there's like a 130-pound guy wrestling like a 190-pound guy? These guys are all extremely good at wrestling. It's not all about just having that height and size difference. Like, the 190-pound guy is technically really good, just like the 130-pound guy. So you kind of have to have those weight classes, or else it would be unfair, because the big guy is going to be just as skilled and he'll have the weight. So I see why they do it. I don't really know what the workaround is, but it's maybe a bad sign when your sport requires weigh-ins and guys can go take a shit to lose the extra poundage to get into their weight class. Hi, Austin. Go ahead.
Here's the real question. With the popularity of professional wrestling, and they don't have weigh-ins last I checked, do we actually need wrestling as a sport? I mean, do we?
Well, so professional wrestling, you're talking about the WWE, correct?
Yeah. What else is there? It's
Real wrestling.
No, that's a good.
What?
What's that, Chris?
Real wrestling, maybe.
Well,
wrestling.
there's no pro wrestling, right? I mean, there's no professional wrestling league.
Are you
Well, no, it's
telling me that you
entertainment.
don't think
Entertainment
Rey
league.
Mysterio is professional.
But I'm saying, like, guy goes to college, wins a national championship for his college.
Yeah.
What is the next step? To wrestle for your country, correct? Is there
Yes.
a professional wrestling league or no?
Yes, the World Wrestling.
No, like real
no, like
wrestling.
legit.
Yeah,
like
that-
not.
what are you saying?
If
That's real.
if you're able to use a chair in it, it's not real wrestling. Like that's
Says who? Says who? The ancient Greeks who didn't even know what like gunpowder was.
Excuse me. The ancient Greeks invented this fucking sport. I think we have the right, as an ancient Greek myself,
As an
we
ancient
have the
Greek,
right to decide what is and isn't real wrestling. And I've decided, as an ancient Greek, that something that's in a ring where you can use objects at your disposal against another human being does not constitute real wrestling.
I can get that argument. I can tear through that in like 3 sentences. So you're saying the people that invented it, they get to decide. So the white men that wrote the Constitution get to decide how America operates. Chris, is that what you're saying?
I mean, I
it
don't know
took.
what
Wait,
race
hold
has to
on,
do
hold
with
on,
it.
hold on.
Good,
It took
good
9
job,
minutes.
Chris.
It took 9 minutes.
Good job.
9 minutes, and that gets brought into this. We've been on the air for 9 minutes, and we were already talking about white privilege. All right, Chris,
I'll put
as
it
the
back
expert
on
in wrestling.
track.
Well, I want to ask, because Chris, as the expert in wrestling, because you probably know more about wrestling than the four of us combined. Not because you just know that much. It's just I think none of us really know anything about the actual sport. I mean, I know Richie and Austin don't. Jacob, I can't speak on you.
I lived with a wrestler. I used to watch college wrestling.
All right.
Yeah.
Chris, you still know more about you call college wrestling. You are a
I've
broadcaster.
called it in the past, yes.
Yes. So
Yeah. I mean,
Chris,
I
your
don't
thought
know
on-
if I'd
on
consider
the sport-
myself an expert. I'm probably more of an expert on being overweight than I am about college wrestling. But to get back to your point,
Go ahead, Chris.
seriously, I don't know. I as someone who never wrestled himself, but like has had friends who did in high school. covered it as a sport in college. I never understood like this whole system behind, all week you're training at a certain weight that's above your weight class. And then you go to these extreme unhealthy measures. And what kind of blows my mind is the fact that they're still somehow able to perform at a pretty high level, despite the fact that, they just fasted for however many hours or whatever it is they do to get down to a weight. I mean, at least, and maybe this is my ignorance showing, I kind of figured it would make more sense if you set up the system in a way where like you just naturally were at like, say 174 pounds or whatever your weight class is, and just, trained at that weight, and then you'd probably perform better. That's at least the way I see it, but I'll admit I don't know as much as people who have done it themselves, so maybe I'm being ignorant. I don't know.
Is it possible that the issue with this is the weight classes are too tight, they're too small, so people have to stuff into them? Like, I want to run through this. The weight classes is 125, 134, 143, 154, 163, 174, 190, 203, 214, 276. So until that last weight class, the difference is like 9 pounds, like 10 pounds. Maybe we should only have like 4 or 5 weight classes, so guys aren't literally like sweating.
That's a bad idea.
You would get the 10 pounds is a big difference.
Yeah, but then everyone will just be on the top side of it. That's fine. At least they're not worrying about.
Well, no, Troy, because it depends on your height. It depends on your frame. Like a certain person can fill out a certain frame. Like someone who is like 5'7", like they can either be like really lean at like 170 pounds, or like they could just like put on a ton of weight and be like 190 pounds, but that's not their optimal weight. Their optimal weight is somewhere in between. So the idea of having about 10 pounds or so between each weight class is to give any kind of frame from someone who's 5'3", which is what you normally see at like 125, 133, the Nick Sorianos of the world. And then, someone who's 6 foot and can really only fit in at like 200 plus pounds, or in some case heavyweights, which is probably the only weight class where they don't have to go through all this cutting weight stuff.
So is there an issue? Like, is this the fact that guys are doing this to their body, sweating, sleeping in garbage bags? Is this an issue? Is this something that needs to be
find
fixed?
it problematic. Yes.
So, okay. Jacob, what do you think about it?
I have a potential solution. I know that's kind of where we're headed now. And I think kind of the solution has to be twofold in both the rules of the sport and the coaching / culture of the sport. So I'd say like primarily, we talked about that they have this like lag time before weigh-in and before actually fighting. So it's like, well, maybe I'm training all week at 175. I'm going to cut down to 168, and then I'm going to eat a bunch right before my match. And I'm basically going to be fighting at 175, even though I'm in a lower weight class when I weighed in. So I think looking into like moving that weigh-in time closer to like right before the match. Obviously, it doesn't really make sense quite as much for UFC, where it's like TV schedules, but when it comes to like high school and different levels, then I think it would be all right. And I think the second idea there, and then I'll let Austin get a point in. The second idea there would be just coaching wise and culture wise for the sport, preaching that college athletes, high school athletes should fight at a healthy weight and shouldn't really engage in too many of these, really, to me at least, really unhealthy tactics to cut weight in order to make a certain weight. I understand that, coaches are always going to say, you should cut a couple pounds, you should try to do this, try to do that. But I think there's a difference between that and the pressure that a lot of wrestlers face in order to make weight.
Jacob, I really like your ideas, and I think the difficulty with it is that anytime there's competition, whether it's sports, whether it's business, music, whatever, when you get to the highest levels, the competition breeds insane behavior, right? So like highest levels of high school wrestling, college wrestling, all this stuff, anytime there's competition tied into it and there's an opportunity to get an edge, it's going to breed bad behavior. It doesn't matter what it is. And I like your idea of doing different style weigh-ins. Like maybe it can be a weigh-in right before the match, but then you're going to have these emaciated kids or wrestlers going out there and passing out and really hurting themselves. I think what it and I'm not. I don't. I haven't watched wrestling. Ever since John Cena and The Miz are not that into it anymore, but it should be like consistent weighing, and like it should be a deviation from weight, right? So like if you have to be 150, okay, 14 days before the match, you can't be more than 5 away from that. 7 days away from the match, you can't be more than 5 away from that. 4 days away from that, can't be more than 5. Like you have to set up consistent, like, because you can't live like that, right? So you can't live away from that. So, but again, like I never wrestled. I was friends with some wrestlers, and it's just like props to them. I was joking about like taking wrestling away. I didn't mean to offend you, Chris, and drive you to drinking, but it's insane. They are one of the best forms of athletes or wrestlers.
I'd like to point out 2 things. Well, one thing, and then I want to ask Richie something about his thoughts on this, because I feel bad. I keep cutting him off. First of all, Austin, I don't think they have weigh-ins for WWE because
it's perfect.
Well, because you see Rey Mysterio fighting like the Big Show, and there's about a 300-pound
difference. Could you imagine
there.
if every high school had that type of wrestling? That would be the greatest.
I think there would be an issue, like Chris said, steel chairs. I don't think that'd be cool. And you see parents yelling at soccer games because there's like a tough slide tackle. I don't think a steel chair being pulled out and being hit against Jimmy's head is a good look for the high school.
So you agree that it's real? So that you agree that the risk of injury is real?
I think it's a real bad idea.
Okay,
I think it's
a liability risk.
If the parents throw in the chair, the kid should get to use it.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, the parents are doing that already. Now that doesn't mean the school has to sanction it.
Richie, your thought? What if the school throws in the chair?
It's the school chair. Richie, what's your thoughts on wrestling? Do you like wrestling? You not like wrestling? Are you good with wrestling?
I mean, honestly, I don't think I ever went to a high school wrestling match. I don't think that ever was a thing to do in high school. I wasn't friends with any of those kids, but I really wasn't friends with any kids.
Chris, what are you shaking your head for? Like going to a wrestling match is like normal for most kids.
It's a big deal at my high school. At least it was.
It is out here too, Richie. I'm surprised you didn't go. I've got.
I find that very surprising.
I went to I think 2 of them, and it was like not about the wrestling. I feel like it was like, I don't know. It was like one time when my friend was in it and he was like very bad at it. So we would just go to like heckle him because it was fun.
It's always dangerous when your sport holds competitions in the dark. I'm just going to put that out there.
It's crazy. Like when COVID is over, where we live now, it's like one of the bigger wrestling schools in the state. Like it's something in the water, but like when the wrestling matches, they just have the spotlight over the mat and it's just everyone screaming. It's awesome. It is so awesome.
I'm fairly certain some children have gotten conceived at wrestling matches.
Whoa. What are you
they're tight. They're tight clothing. It's tight. I've been to maybe 3 wrestling matches in my life.
Have you had
one I went to when I was in like 5th grade. Derek Goldman took me to a wrestling match at North Hunter in high school one time. And then
shout out D-Dog.
Yeah. And then another one I only went to because we were at MSG and I was waiting for it to get over so I could call the basketball game. That went overtime. So I was all right. I'm like, all right,
used to take us to them all the time to go see.
I think I went to one, maybe one. And that's why I'm saying maybe 3 in total. I don't understand the sport. I don't understand the scoring. I just have a hard time following along. If I figured that out, I probably would like it more. But every time I try, I'm like, why is this so complicated? I feel like it's not that complicated, or I'm just like really dumb. I
understand the thing where it's like the one dude wins, and then the next round, it's like he's like on his hands and knees, and the other guy's on top of him.
Escape is a point. So if you can escape a hold, that's a point. If you can get them out of the ring, that's a point. If you pin them,
you can try explaining it. I'm still not going to get it.
I love wrestling.
Why is there a brick? Why does the coach have a brick he could throw? Chris, can you answer that?
Brick.
Why is it a brick?
Why is it a flag in football?
Because that's like light. You can like throw that.
A brick makes more sense. If you're throwing a brick, it means you're angry. What are you angry at? You're angry.
That's a danger to the players.
It's a dangerous thing.
We're not throwing it at the ref. You're throwing it at the ground in frustration to signal to the ref that you're upset about the officiating.
Also, and it's on the mat to get their attention so that they hear it.
Yes.
A flag. It's easy. Oh, it's a flag. A flag's easy. It's like in your pocket. You pull it out. You tell me the coach has to carry a brick the entire time? How is that simple?
It's not 100 yards big.
He's standing on the side. What does he keep it by his foot or keeps it in his back? Like it's a big brick.
You go get it and you throw it. What are you so allergic?
You got to be able to react quick. You got to go quick. I'm not carrying a brick around this entire time. There's a reason the NFL uses a flag.
I've been carrying this podcast on my back, okay?
Why can't he just be like, I'm challenging this? He has to throw a brick?
Days, Troy. You ever play basketball with me?
Yeah, you do have a lot of bricks in
basketball. Strictly shooting bricks. Strictly bricks.
Well, wrestling, that's my point. I know it's not that complicated. I don't know what it is about wrestling that I have such a hard time following it. Because other sports, I'm fine. It's not hard. I always picked up. Maybe it's because I didn't learn it as a little kid. All the other sports I've had an exposure to my entire life, but wrestling for some reason, I watch it and I just find myself confused. Right when I start to think I have an understanding of it, something else happens. I'm like, why is that happening now? And Chris, you've tried to explain it to me when we're sitting in studio. I'm just like, I can't do it, man. And then there's like 20 wrestlers. It's crazy.
I like it as a fan. I found it to be the most challenging sport to depict on the radio, just because it's not like a basketball or football where like there's locations on the mat. It's not like a usual scoring system like there is in another team sport. It's one-on-one. A lot of the movements are very subtle. It's kind of hard to depict without sounding repetitive or not capturing the whole thing. So I liked watching it as a fan and covering it as a reporter, but from a radio broadcasting perspective, I found it a bit of a challenge.
If Richie comes down here and we start wrestling, can you call that, Chris?
I can call.
No, don't do it. Don't do it.
That lasts about 6 seconds, but
Yo, who wins that, Chris?
Roy. Yes.
Roy. Listen.
Times.
Maybe not, because Richie's cute. I don't know if I could do it to him.
That'd be a 50-50. Both tall and scrawny with no muscle.
I'm winning that.
Well, no, because I've seen Troy beat out Muffin, so I know he's capable.
And Muffin's got like 30 pounds on you.
Yeah, but Muffin has
really
COVID.
just.
I mean, the man doesn't have an immune system.
I know. I had to work against that. That was crazy.
You cannot be saying people have COVID on a podcast and a live stream like that.
It's like Muffin. No one knows who Muffin is.
It's Muffin though. Muffin's not even a real name.
After COVID, can we just talk pay-per-view? We're all gonna wrestle each other.
Jello.
It's gonna be Royal Rumble.
Let's make a tournament.
Royal Rumble style.
Family.
No weight classes.
We're getting Nikki, John.
No, they're actual wrestlers. I don't want to do that. Didn't they actually wrestle?
We're doing it.
I got Dan and Steven. Right. I'm good.
First show, Jacob and I.
Sliding away from the mat. We'll move away from the mat. Chris, can you fill us in on what's happening in Florida? I'm like considering, Chris, maybe you could just be our Florida guy and just fill us in on what's happening in Florida every week.
He does like airplanes.
Because the last 3 weeks, I think it's all been Florida for you. So let us know what is happening in Florida this week.
Well, Florida is like a content mine for this entire podcast because there's always something bizarre going on down there. And of course, when it comes to the COVID vaccine, it's no different. So 2 young women disguised themselves as quote unquote grannies in a failed attempt to get a second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. The director of the Florida Department of Health in Orange County, which is in Central Florida, said, quote, "So yesterday we realized a couple of young ladies came dressed up as grannies to get vaccinated for the second time. So I don't know how they escaped the first time." This was during a press conference, very professional setting. So the women showed up wearing bonnets, gloves, and glasses. They're reportedly in their 30s and 40s, according to the Orange County Sheriff's Office. That means they're ineligible, in case you couldn't put that together. They can only receive the vaccination if they're in a healthcare or long-term care facility setting, and 30-year-olds are not usually in long-term care facility settings. And they had valid vaccination cards from their first shot, so they got in the first time somehow. Then the second attempt, there were issues with their driver's licenses. And the deputies on site issued them trespass warnings, and no other law enforcement action was taken.
No, hold on. I want to address the elephant in the room before we move on. Chris, you provided something about people looking older than their actual age. I just want to address the fact you provided that story. No jokes about Chris looking old are allowed. It's too easy for this segment.
He doesn't look old. He's a strapping young
I just want to address that. No one, Chris, you do,
I
but
did 'em.
I'm protecting this time because you almost did it to yourself, and I didn't want to.
I didn't do anything with myself. I'm just
maybe
reading
me
the
pointing
story.
it out is a
I
bit of a
covered
joke
the
in
news.
itself.
All right.
Yes. All right.
I want
ahead,
to
Austin.
know. I want to know, was one of them sitting on the other's shoulders wearing a long trench coat, like I'm here for my shot?
How did they get their first shot? Because they came back, so they did it once.
Well, clearly, whoever was running the vaccination site the first time around just was not doing their due
Don't you
diligence.
have to check ID or something?
Well, apparently, that's what caught them the second time. I guess the comically bad disguise wasn't enough of a red flag for these people, but then again, it is Florida. So the driver's licenses were flagged because the date of births did not match the names, and they said, "Wait a minute, something's not right here." No one with this name was born in 1938 or whenever it was. Completely random date, nothing to do with me. Anyway, so that's how they were able to get that. We have no idea how they slipped through the first time, so that's a big question. Jacob.
I will say this much to their disguises. I have seen a couple, viral videos on the internet of young people dressing up as old people to try to go buy alcohol and other things. And I think, the presence of masks where you can cover this much of your face down, I feel like it makes it pretty easy. All you have to do is kind of give you some makeup wrinkles on the forehead. And wear a hat or something like that. So I would say it's probably a lot easier to fake your age, but that's why they're supposed to check IDs a little bit more diligently than they did the first time. I guess.
It's super bad.
Do you think we'll see a wave of 20 to 30-year-olds getting fake IDs, but for being 80 years old? So instead of buying alcohol, they're doing it so they can get the COVID vaccine. This is the new wave of fake IDs.
Gen Z ain't doing that. Gen Z ain't going out of their way to get a vaccine. They're too busy.
It's a 2-for-1. If you're under 18, you get a fake ID. If you're under 21, you get a fake ID that says you're 60 and you can somehow pull it off. 1, you can buy alcohol before you're 21. 2, you can get the COVID vaccine before your parents probably.
And see 2-for-1 at movies.
Every time you go to the bars, you have to dress up like you're an elderly person.
Yeah, it's it just reminds me of the scene in where they in Superbad when McLovin is buying and they're like, "Can I see your ID?" And he's like, "Oh, it makes me feel young again." I heard they added more to it.
What
Would
is
you like a vaccine? That would be wonderful.
So we've we understand people in Florida sometimes get a little crazy. They live a different life down there. But I want to ask, for someone living in New Jersey, wherever you may live outside of Florida, what is the oldest you could get away for if you had to get a fake ID and you had to get this? Because I don't think 60 or 70, that seems a little ridiculous. What is the oldest you could pass for in a reasonable disguise? Because I can't see anything past Chris, you go first. Let's start with you. How old do you think you can pass for? If you have a slight disguise, maybe you dye your hair a little bit, that kind of stuff.
If I dye my hair, I look in my mid-30s on a good day. So I would say probably, as long as we're not talking makeup or anything like that, I would probably say somewhere in my 50s.
What? You don't look like you're in
Chris,
your 50s, Chris.
We
with
say
the
you're
disguise. No, if I dyed my hair, we're not saying as is.
Oh.
Chris, we say you're old. We joke about you being old. You're not you don't look old. You do look like you're in your 30s. Yes. I'm gonna say
it's
maybe
the hairline. That's what it is.
Maybe early 40s at the most. Richie, I don't think
I guess it depends on how far you go with the disguise. You're talking a little gray in the hair, then okay.
If you got the George Costanza haircut and you really played the part, maybe 50s, maybe.
Oh no, yeah. If I had
have you ever seen a real 50-year-old, Troy?
No, but he's also wearing a mask, and and he's wearing a slight.
It's
costume.
all in the skin, the tightness.
Yeah, but he's wearing a mask. He's wearing a mask. This is how people are getting away with it. Fake IDs nowadays. Richie, what about me? Don't think you could pass for 19 or 20.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I could maybe get
I think you're
that's why he's going with that. That's why he's growing the mustache out.
Yeah. Give me some time with the mustache.
If you're wearing a mask. If you're wearing a mask, you're still going to have your man bun. So I think that puts you automatically in the category of, early 20s.
You've seen his hats? They're like
late
old
teens.
hats.
What?
Well, all right, maybe he's wearing his hat.
Yeah, here, I'll go get one.
I'm going to say early 20s.
I don't think I could get higher than I don't think I could get out of the 20s.
And that's a good thing.
And
Jacob
yes,
looks like
Richie's young enough to get a free meal at Friendly's still. He's too tall for that though. But yes, I agree. Jacob, what about you? You got the beard.
What is that last comment?
I don't know. I think with the mask, obviously my beard would be covered up. Before COVID going in, I wouldn't get ID'd because of the beard, even at like the age of 21.
I'll have a 17.
So I would say I definitely look at least a little bit older than that. I'd say around low, maybe mid 30s, depending on the disguise. I think it's pretty normal.
I would
go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, Harry said you 32, me 36. I actually think like you have the beard. Like I know the mask would cover it up a bit, but not like entirely. Like you'd still be able to see it on the side. I think the beard like kind of flips that. So I would actually say like, cause I'm clean shaven right now. That's like the one thing that would make me say
We've noticed.
Yeah.
It's nice.
I shaved my sideburns for this.
Jacob, you got young eyes. You got young eyes. They give you away, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you, Troy. Look at that. Troy just likes to compliment me on this podcast. I'm gonna write that down in my little book. I'm gonna feel good about that one, Troy.
Young eyes. Is that? Yeah, I guess that's a compliment. I don't know. Isn't like usually it's like you got old eyes or something. Like your eyes could tell stories. Also, I'm gonna say like 35.
Shut up! I'm gonna come downstairs and fight you.
You're 29 years old. You're 29 years. No, I'm saying what could you pass for? What's the oldest you could pass for?
It depends on what I'm wearing. It depends on how I'm walking. It depends on what I'm buying in the liquor store. If I'm going in there and buying,
you don't look old. You don't really look old.
Thank you.
Max 35. No, I'm saying like how long could you stretch it? How far can you stretch it?
Yeah,
I'm gonna say like max 35.
If I was trying to, I think I could pass for my 40s. Yeah, I can do the walk.
Harry Brown says ribs.
I can do the walk. It's all about the walk. Yeah, it's all about you have to have a slight gimp. You have to look like you absolutely just hate your life. You have to look like you're going slow because you don't want to go home to your screaming kids and your wife that hates you. Like that's what looking older is all about. It's not necessarily the brow lines. It's not the hair. It's the demeanor. So like for you guys trying to look like in your 20s and 30s, you got to look like you're trying to be confident, but secretly you hate your life. Like that's what late 20s and early 30s is about. So like early 40s. No, I'm not projecting. I love my life. I have a great life. What is there not to like about my life? What is there not to like about my life? I'm doing a podcast on Saturday night with a bunch of 20-year-olds. What is there not to like about my life?
Well, Chris is in his 30s.
This guy's got a dog.
I have a dog. Well, I also have a wife too, which is great. But I also have a dog. Okay, and you
have a teenage son too. You got a teenage son.
Didn't you just adopt a young?
I do not have a teenage son. I have a brother-in-law who's a roommate. There's a difference.
For myself, I'm gonna say like 23 at the most.
No, Troy, you'd pee your pants trying to pass as older. You would get up there and be like, "Do you have any?"
You're misunderstanding the question. You're not getting the question. This is the fourth person that you don't understand the question.
No, he's saying you couldn't pull it off. I agree with Austin.
I'm saying appearance-wise, I could. I'm not saying like gun to your head. You got to go in a storm. Pull it off.
You got to act the part.
When you work at the Haunted Mill, do you think people think you're actually a zombie? No, you
gotta be like a zombie.
You're too genuine and pure of a person. This is a compliment. You'd get up there and you'd be like, "Can I have some PBR?" And
you tell me I can't pull up a year. I can't pull up whether I'm 21 or 23. I can still legally buy. So there's not like that much pressure on me.
I don't think people think you're 21 now.
I'll pull my license. I'll show you my social on the camera right now.
All right, show your license on camera right now.
Richie, you go first, and then we can get going. Oh, God, don't do it, Richie, please. I'm going to remove him from the stream so we don't see this. I don't trust him enough.
He's going to come.
Yeah, he just put it in front. All right, I'm glad I did that. All right.
Yo, it's actually funny. I probably shouldn't tell you where my social is, but I had it in a really bad spot for a long time. No, you shouldn't. I didn't tell you where it was.
Richie, don't tell people where you have your social security card.
I'm just saying it was in a bad spot, and then I realized, and I was like, I shouldn't have my social there.
Or it'd be like, ooh, this white wine reminds me of my 20s. It'd be like,
I'm in my 20s. All right, whatever. I'm done. Moving on. Chris, thank you for sharing what's going on in Florida. Austin, do you want to fill us in on what's going on under the ice?
No. Did you not see? Does no one listen to me? That's not the topic I'm doing. I didn't put that in the chat. It's a different topic.
Topics?
What do you mean? Who put the under the ice in the chat? Yeah, you did.
No, he switched it. He switched it while you were.
It
having
doesn't
to
matter.
deal
I
with-
already said it. You got to do it.
No, I'm not doing that. I don't have
No,
a
no,
little.
Just tell people what it was real quick.
Okay, I have two topics. All right,
Really quick on under the
You
ice.
just
I
take
don't
mine.
wanna
I'll
leave-
give Austin mine.
so scientists in Antarctica found at a level of ice that is a certain age, a certain temperature, a certain distance away from the sun, they found existence of life that should not be there. So they're speculating about, like, is everything we know and think about how life forms and exists and what it needs to survive wrong? Yeah, it is, because we don't know everything, because we've only been on this planet for not that long. So I don't know why scientists all need to think about they know everything. I'm just kidding. Scientists are a lot smarter in 2021.
Who are these scientists to say that life shouldn't be here? Who do these people think they
Exactly.
are?
Smarter
That's what
than
I'm
us.
saying.
Smarter
No,
than us.
I mean, obviously not. Life is there, so they're wrong. Life should be there. So who are these people
That's what
saying that?
science is making discoveries and learning. Like, that's the
I
beauty.
don't know who these scientists think they are, but
Yeah,
they're
no,
fooling.
fuck
They're
these
kidding
Very
themselves.
arrogant of them. to think
Seriously,
that they
come
can
on.
decide
Like, life
what
shouldn't be there.
can and
Like,
cannot
you're
be.
telling me
They
telling me
shouldn't-
you're
they shouldn't
right.
be giving me their opinion. I don't care.
It's a straw
You're
man
telling-
argument. There's no scientist on the podcast. Who are you arguing with?
Scientists are
You.
telling me you're right. The scientists are right, and life is wrong. Okay, I don't believe it. Austin, what's your next story?
But they're not out
Okay.
here. They're not out here saying, like, this is not possible. This is fake news. They're sharing
Life forms
this
that
discovery.
shouldn't be there. Obviously, they should, because guess what? There was no
Okay.
human interference, and they were there.
Sorry that my paraphrasing wasn't perfect.
No,
Shouldn't is
no,
not
that was the
correct
title of the
vernacular.
article. This isn't you. This is the article.
Okay, but it's
Like-
a title of an article. That's
Guys,
not
come on, Chris left now. Chris
It's the
left now.
HuffPost. That is like so accurate. HuffPost never exaggerates on anything. Awesome.
Never.
What's your other story?
Well, in New Zealand, authorities sentenced a woman who tried in 2019 to smuggle nearly 1,000 cacti and succulents into the country, strapped to her body. 38-year-old pled guilty to violating biosecurity laws after she was caught twice with plants and seeds at Auckland International Airport when returning home to the city from China. New Zealand's Ministry for Primary Industries said in a statement. On March 24th in 2019, she had stockings containing over 940 succulents and cacti valued at over $10,000 strapped to her body, and in some of the seeds were hidden in some of her phone cases and things like that. She was smuggling all of these plants into the country to make a profit for herself. It's wrong. It can spread disease. It can spread diseases for plants that can wipe out ecosystems. Ecosystems, as beautiful and strong as they are, they can be very, very fragile. And we need to be really protective of them and really understand what it is that we're doing. That's why, like, when you go to a different country, if you bring your pet or something like that, you have to quarantine your pet. You have to quarantine yourself. When we go to other countries, we have to get vaccinations and we have to take the proper precautions. And I just can't believe that she had almost 1,000 cacti strapped to her body. Like, one of them had to have thorns. And that's gotta hurt. Like, I can't imagine that. But also, did you know?
Scientists would be like, that shouldn't be possible. Scientists be like,
you're painting yourself into a very bad corner here, Troy. I want to say that. So
guess what, scientists? It is possible. She did it, just like the life was there.
The scientists made the discoveries about the life, and they shared it. If they wanted to prove that they were right, they wouldn't have shared their findings. It's that simple. Come on.
Hold on, I'm hacking a hologram. Troy, put the sound in there. All right.
What sound? What do you want me to put in?
Show me this guy's face.
Oh, you want me to go back and put it in there for the podcast?
yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
But so like that has to be like, how do you explain that? Like they open your luggage at the airport and you're like, oh, that's not mine. Like, or they take you to the screening room and they're like, is there anything you want to tell us? And it's like, nope. And then they take your shirt off and you just have stockings full of cacti and succulents. Like, how do you explain that? Like, how do you explain that? You can't, and that's why you got arrested.
Oh my God. I had a really good night's sleep last night. I woke up. I wasn't in the same spot. I fell asleep. I'm not really sure how any of this got here.
Well, my
roommates have been playing a lot of pranks on me recently. I guess this is a really, really, really elaborate one because
you
here
mean
we
to
are.
tell me that nobody else uses succulents as pillows on the plane?
So that was my next.
That could be anybody's invasive species. Come on.
Have you ever had anything taken from you at the airport that you like forgot in your luggage or something like that?
One time I almost got Chris taken from me at the airport because he took so long to get through security.
I knew I should have worn the slip-on shoes. I shouldn't have done
that. Wasn't it.
Take a long
that wasn't
time in
it.
security.
That wasn't why.
Staring at the plane.
That wasn't why it took so long. It took so long because we got diverted into separate lanes, and the person who was running my lane made me remove every single piece of technology out of my bag into a separate bin.
How many pieces of technology you have? Your
no, like literally, no. I shit you not. It was like laptop goes into one bin. Phone goes into an entirely separate bin. Chargers go into an entirely it was obnoxious. It was obnoxious. I was like, can I put them all in one bin? No, that's against the rules. So like, you know what? I don't see how I should be blamed for that. I'm sorry.
Don't bring that many electronics. Maybe leave them with your grandkids. Yeah,
what the hell's wrong with you?
Why didn't you just go on my line? Why were you in a different line?
Because that's where they've sent me. You were in one line. I was in the next line. You were like 2 people ahead of me.
No,
and you got a much more accommodating security person than I did.
You should have picked better. I thought you got stuck in like the metal detector or something.
No, the metal detector's
standing out there for like 15
because I
minutes.
removed all my technology for the previous half hour. And if
I
you
was
really
just,
want someone to blame for us being there later than expected, you should blame the traffic on the turnpike driving up from New Brunswick. That is how you should blame. I'm not a robot, Harry. I'm not a robot.
Chris, say bebop boop.
Should have known.
Troy. Chris got pulled away because his earring kept setting off the metal detector. And then they're like, do you have any awkward tattoos that you need to show us? And he's like, yeah, can we go to somewhere private?
Chris, well, that's what happened when you say to Chris.
I mean, it was all worth it, Troy. We saw Rutgers beat Pittsburgh in the end. So, you know.
No, we didn't.
No, that's right. It was the worst loss of the season.
It was awful. Yes. No, it was not worth it. But yeah,
I mean, for us,
I want to know.
You're not a robot, though. Can you prove you're not a robot?
I think it should be very apparent that I'm not a robot.
Do the Turing test right now.
All right.
I don't know what a Turing test is.
1 1 1 1 1 0 0 1 1 0 1 1 1 1.
Don't say that. You're gonna freak him out. Stop.
Austin, does this mean that you have had something taken from you?
No, actually, I am such a paranoid traveler that I get to the airport, like I am that stereotype. Like I get to the airport like 3 hours before my flight. I have nothing. Like I check my bag multiple times. Like the night before, I'm like I don't own a machete or a gun or a knife. And I'm like checking my bag to be like, did I leave my dagger in the bag? But like I don't own any of that.
The best of us.
Like the only thing I could own would be like a bottle of water that they would take. And I've thrown that out before, but I've never had my bag open. Like they look at me and they're like, look at this guy looks like the Pillsbury Doughboy that fell on the floor of a barber shop. Like he's not a threat to anyone. Like no, they're not looking at me twice.
Is there a moment you guys get like, not panic isn't the right word, but like you go through a checklist like a million times as like when you're standing in line for that conveyor belt, you're like, all right, I got to take my belt off. I got to make sure I take this out. Because you don't want to go into the metal detector and still have something on you because that is like worst case scenario.
Like
all off. But you're always like, oh, I definitely forgot something. And it's like
you don't want to be a public inconvenience either. You don't want to like slow other people down and have people like looking at you, make them wait longer.
Apparently Chris goes there and he's like, all right, time for me to take off my watch. Very slowly.
I'm with Chris. I would love to be a public inconvenience to all those people behind me.
I can tell you, Richie, that your wish is granted on a daily basis, my friend.
Thank you. Why do you think I got my hair like this?
Yeah.
In fact, Troy, with what you were just saying, I have been concerned after I've gotten through security and been like, I feel like I should have been more concerned about what I possibly could have had in my pocket or something like just like I feel like I should have been thinking about it more. And then I'm through and I'm done and I'm like, oh, that was easy.
Richie, if you were a superhero, your name would be Mr. Hindsight. That's what your name would be. But I hate airports. I think bring out the absolute worst in people. Like being on a plane, it's not too difficult. Like your expectations as a passenger are not very difficult. Like when you get on, put your bag over where your seat is. If there's not enough room, find someplace else or check your bag. It's not difficult. What I hate is like when the people are putting their bag in, it's very clearly insert it insert it long way, right? People are like putting it in sideways. You know what I'm saying? Or they have no idea what they're doing. Like when I get on a plane, I put my headphones in and I close my eyes until I feel the plane moving. I don't want to look at anyone getting into arguments about seats, about luggage.
Are you the guy who sits you're in the aisle, but you close your eyes and with headphones on, so they need to get to the window seat?
Nope, I'm window.
Yes, you are.
I dehydrate myself so much before a flight so I don't have to pee. Like I don't drink water for like 4 hours before the flight. I buy a bunch of big waters so that I can slowly rehydrate. I get some combos, which is the only time to eat combos, by the way, is on a plane because it fills you up, and a Snickers bar. And you sit on the window, you close your eyes, you slowly sip your water, you eat your combos. You don't care if they smell bad for everyone else. And I don't talk to anyone. Don't talk to me on a plane, okay? I'm done.
Is there a worse person?
I talk to people.
I believe
you're the worst.
I believe it. You're the worst.
Dude, I had the best conversation with this lady from Florida. I don't know why she was in New Jersey, but she was flying to North Carolina, and we were like best friends by the end of the flight. And she was like, you have a good time with your girlfriend, honey. Like, and I was like, you're the best. And we were like best friends. It was so fun.
Is there a worse person than the guy who stands up as quick as possible as the plane lands to try to get their baggage and get off first? He's the worst person in the world. There's no one worse.
At one point, I'm willing to be on the no-fly list for punching another passenger in the face for standing up as soon as the plane lands. Like, you're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere.
Dude, I've seen people try to run down the aisle. I've seen him try to run down the aisle. Like, that's
every time.
Like, wait your fucking turn. You did it. You did it all through high school, or maybe not high school, middle school. Like, the front of the bus leaves first, buddy. Like, that's how you get out. It's how it makes sense.
Go ahead. Sorry, I'm talking about.
No, the absolute worst are the people that get up as soon as the plane like parks at the gate, but they're in the back of the plane. So it's like, even if you get your bag and you get in the aisle, all right, great. You're going to be standing in line, crammed with a bunch of people. Like, it just doesn't. It doesn't make any sense.
And stop blowing, so it's hot in the cabin. Like, I get standing up to stretch. Like, if it's a long flight, like if you're just stretching and you're bending over and you're just in your seat and you're not like waiting to go, that's totally different. Like, stretch, please. Like, I want to see your back sweat when you stand up in front of me. But like the people that are trying to get their bags, instant rage. I want to fist fight them.
What is the correct protocol when you're standing on the outside? So you're the aisle seat, but the thing's above you, so you're a little too tall to stand up. So you're just kind of like this.
Don't stand up.
And but then the two people on the inside both stand up to like get out, but there's nowhere to go. So it's like, do you just sit down and be like, sorry?
Don't do the aisle seat, my friend. That's
you know what I mean? Like, you're sitting in the aisle, the two people next to you, window and middle. There's nowhere to go because everyone is standing up and there's already someone in the immediate aisle next to you. But they're both standing up like you got to do something. But you're just sitting there and you're too tall because your head's going to hit the thing if you stand up. But then you're just like the people are standing up next to you. What do you do?
By this time in the flight, we've already exchanged Snapchats. Like, we're best friends. I've learned about the majority of this random person's grandchildren. Like,
I hate you.
Like, yo, I can't.
You suck. You suck.
I do not suck.
Never talk to me on a plane ever. Don't talk to me.
Never.
If I
bank on sleeping on that
and
plane.
I start talking to you and you don't talk to me, then I'm gonna be like, yo, fuck this guy.
Good.
Why?
I don't want to. You know what I'm gonna say? Yo, fuck this guy for talking.
I'm a human. You're a human. Talk to me, bro.
No, I don't want to talk to you.
Headphones don't come off on the plane.
No.
Oh, but if someone tries talking to me with my headphones on, it's like, are you kidding me?
See, I'm not gonna do that. But
Cap.
You're gonna do that. Yeah, you've done it.
I had his headphones in.
I was talking to him
before he put them on, and he seemed to love it. He seemed to love it because I was like, "Yo, what you flying for?" He was like,
"You are
do this about your business."
Funerals and death and family and illness and sickness. Like, what if someone's like, "Yeah, my dad just died," or like,
I'd be like, "Yo, dude." Not cool.
And I know the answer to this question. Like, at a stoplight, do you look over and ask them where they're going? It's the same.
One time I was at a stoplight in Peaburg over down the hill, and we stopped. The guy looks at me, and I look at him. He kind of looked at me again, and I look at him, and like I thought he was gonna say some mean stuff to me. So instead, I was like, "Yo, did you see those dudes in front of us? Like, they were driving like total assholes. Like, I just pulled it out of my ass. It wasn't even true at all." And he was like, yeah, man, I did see him. Like, screw those guys. Like, I hate all the people driving around here. And I was like, that's good. Have a good one, dude. And then we just went. It was great. Made my day. I remember that day, and I remember coming home and being like, I should talk to people at stoplights more.
If
had
anyone
one
ever
guy
tried to talk to me at a stoplight, I mean, that's like a low point.
Like, hold on, I gotta roll my window down.
What? What did you say? No, I've had one person recently, actually. I was driving. I have a Rutgers magnet on the back of my car, and I hear someone like yelling. This was like this is like early fall, so the windows were still down. And I was like, oh my God, is this guy getting mad at me or something? Like, what did I do? And he's like yelling at me. I'm like, what is this guy saying? I turn around and I say, what? And he's like, oh, you see that big win? And I was like, I guess they just played football the week before and they had one of their first wins in many years. I was like, yeah. I was caught completely off guard. The guy was yelling. My first instinct is that this guy wants to like kill me or something. If you're talking to me at the stoplight, don't talk to me at a stoplight because you're going to freak me out and be like, what did I do wrong? Why is this guy yelling? Because you can't talk. It's going to be a yell. You're 2 cars away. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me on a plane. Don't talk to me across a car, please.
Just don't talk to me. If you don't know me, don't talk to me.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to hear about you
ever.
Yes.
No, wait. Pause. 1 second. Troy, leave that up. What does that name say? What is the name of that person?
Feather Buns.
Okay, now let's put some spaces. Now what does it say?
Feather
Buns.
Feather Buns.
Eat at her buns.
Richie, I know who it is. I'm not going to say their name because privacy, something you don't understand.
Feather Buns. I'm just saying I'm saying what it.
Can you guys hear that? Can you hear the screeching halt that the show was just brought to?
Yikes.
Oh, Richie, you're killing me today. All right. Chris, go ahead. Closing thoughts on the whole airplane thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, talking to someone on an airplane, bad enough. Talking to someone at a stoplight, like that's like next level. Like I'm speeding past that light as soon as it changes green. Like that.
There's something really wrong with them.
Yeah, and if it's someone I know, like that's the end of my having anything to do with them. Like instant block on all social media. Just if I see them in the hallway, I go the other direction. Like it's just
so funny. What I miss?
Do that. Also, Troy, when you mentioned the Rutgers, when you mentioned the Rutgers.
Yo, get this guy out of here. Get Harry out of the chat.
I finally saw it. I'm like, oh.
All right, go ahead. We're on a podcast. People can't see the chat. Go ahead, Chris.
People can't see it. Continue.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Chris?
I was going to say, like, when you said the Rutgers bumper sticker right before I started yelling at you, I just assumed it was Kevin Willard. And then I find out I was a Rutgers fan. So
no, but it was like they were happy yelling, like good win. I was just caught so off guard because like no one talks to someone at a stoplight like that unless they want to fight or something.
People have done that to me like at the store. Like I'll just be in line ready to check out at Target.
There's a car in between you. There's a car.
Well, I'm not saying it's the same, but that's also kind of weird.
You don't look at people. You don't like look to see if they're looking at you.
Don't be that guy.
No.
You suck.
I'm looking
you
at
suck.
the road. I'm looking at what's ahead of me. Maybe if
Richie,
I'm at a stoplight, I'll quickly change the song on the radio.
I wanted to share this story because this happened like 2 days ago. We're sitting in a car in a parking lot. Richie thinks for some reason if the window is up, the person cannot hear you, even if they are like right on the other side. We're looking at this car. This guy comes out and he's like, "Oh, look at this." He says something like insulting about the guy.
Wait,
I'm like, Richie, shut up. Like the guy is right there.
I was like, yo, that dude's got a dope. I was like, I bet that's not his car over there. That's a cool car. And then you were like, dude, shut up. Like he's on the outside of the window.
There.
I was like, what's he gonna do? I'm in the car. Like we're safe behind the glass.
Yeah,
he's asking Nikki Brzezina.
What is he gonna do?
What is he gonna do?
It's not a rhetorical question.
Richie, do you know where the people are most irrationally angry? Do you know what road rage is? Like people get angry around cars. Like they just get irrationally angry. So that's what they will do.
Like cars. I feel
you are going to get someone is going to pull you out of a car one day if you do these things.
Crossbow on the side of Route 22.
Seriously.
Listen, I'll catch a freaking crossbow bolt any day.
Yeah, with your heart.
I want to wrap this up here. I got like 5 minutes to share this final story. It's honestly the biggest story of the week, I think. And then we can kind of wrap this one up. I want to get your thoughts on it first, though. Ted Cruz. Are we all familiar with what's going on with Ted Cruz this week?
I wish I weren't familiar with Ted Cruz.
I mean, the guy is just next level. First of all, I'll explain what happened. Obviously, he is the senator from Texas. He's a senator from Texas. Texas in the middle of a deep freeze, blizzards, crazy. It's state crisis at the moment. And the guy breaks like the number one rule when your state is in crisis. You don't leave. You don't abandon ship. Guy flies to Mexico to get some warmth, to get out of Texas because Texas is a shit show right now. Then he gets caught because people are like, this guy just abandoned ship and left the state. Meanwhile, like a lot of politicians are flying to Texas to help fundraise and help the state. And this guy left his own state, gets caught, and then blames it on his kids. And that's why he left Texas to go to Mexico. He's like, my daughters wanted to go on a getaway and get some warmth. I just was going there to drop them off. My daughters really made me go drop them off. And then immediately when I'm leaving, I had instant regret because I was like, this is maybe not the right move. This guy is he's so full of crap. It hurts. If he didn't get caught, he'd be there for the entire week. Like, he's so full of crap. And he blames it on his kids.
And that's just screenshots. And screenshots come out proving his false claims were wrong.
It's one thing to just abandon ship and do something like that. It's like another thing. You're just a bad father at that point. To blame it on your kids, that's why you left, because your kids asked.
Not to mention they're like 10 and 12 years old. So they're not at the age where they're coercing their parents into taking a vacation, and it's
Cancun.
Logical.
Cancun.
Why would you?
It's not like going to the county fair. Like he's going to Cancun. Like you're leaving the country. You need a passport to do that.
Yeah. I'm sorry. There's no kids like, Dad, Mom, can we go to Cancun? No, that's definitely the parents' idea.
And also, the other thing about this is not only is it obviously bullshit. I mean, most of what comes out of Ted Cruz's mouth is, but is the fact that even if you believed him in being sincere, like his explanation just flat out does not make sense. Why is it that you would be comfortable leaving your 10 and 12-year-old daughters in a foreign country, but you don't feel comfortable with them being on a plane by them? Like that doesn't make any, you know what I mean? Like that doesn't make any sense.
Like
apparently they were going to
like, why is one, friends. Why do you need to be on the flight but not in the, like it?
Yeah, like a group screenshots came out from Ted Cruz's wife. Like they have 3 Ivy League degrees between the two of them, and this is the best excuse they can come up with. I think Jamel Hill was saying that on Twitter. And it's like part of the water that's freezing in Texas is because this situation is dripping in so much goddamn irony that the residue water is freezing all over the state of Texas. This man took his family to a different country for a better situation. This man does not want other people to take their families to our country for a better situation. This man, if you look up jellyfish / Zodiac killer in the encyclopedia, Ted Cruz's stupid, very punchable face is going to show up. No spine. He blamed his kids. And the biggest thing that makes me so upset, not to go too far away from Ted Cruz, and I'll throw it back, is what really upsets me is that there are so many people suffering in Texas right now. I hate seeing all the people that live in the northeastern states like dunking on Texas. Like, 3 inches of snow. It's like, no, they're not prepared for this. Just the same way we're not prepared for tornadoes and hurricanes. Like, why is empathy the last reaction to like tragedy on social media nowadays? Like all I've been seeing is people just being like, oh, you have all these lifted trucks and you can't drive in snow. It's like people are dying and freezing. Can we not meet this with memes and joking?
It's also, I just want to point out the irony real quick, and then I'll, Chris, go ahead. The irony that it's Ted Cruz who is going to Mexico after the guy he was just supporting, like down to his death almost, was the guy who was like, we need to build a wall so people don't come from Mexico. I mean, like the irony is everywhere in this story. And then Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, to go back to Austin's point, that's kind of like where, especially on social media, which I think is just a cesspool when it comes to anything political, is that we increasingly don't view states as like states. Like when it comes to different like regions and socio-political realms, we kind of view them as like different countries. Like if you're a a Democrat from New Jersey and you're on Twitter all the time, you view Texas as like some mystical faraway land where everyone eats barbecue and votes Republican. And you don't really you sort of view it as like it's a red state, therefore everyone there is Republican. They don't believe in climate change or any of that. And you sort of stereotype them in your mind. So when something bad happens in Texas, you think, oh, this is what they voted for. But no, one, it doesn't matter because Republicans deserve to, not freeze in their own homes just like Democrats do. Number one, so like that shouldn't fucking matter. But two, like there are a lot of people in that state, especially a state as big and diverse as Texas, that didn't vote that way. And to stereotype them for that is just logically it's inconsistent. So it's a shitty thing to do for a ton of different reasons. And Twitter is very toxic politically, and I hate it, but it really is to a certain extent on both sides, which is why I try to stay away from Twitter for anything not involving college sports. But that's my Twitter rant for the day.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that, Chris, and I think it's really interesting that you bring up like the hypocrisy. Obviously, I agree with some of your points there. Like there definitely is hypocrisy there. I also wanted to point out the hypocrisy on the part of Ted Cruz, who
no doubt.
I know recently I saw he got a little in an interview. They definitely purposely brought this up to kind of give him a gotcha question, but he had voted against aid that went to the Northeast region after Hurricane Sandy, turns around after this and says, I guarantee that we will get federal aid for Texas. And I know that it's not the exact same circumstances, but I feel that hopefully going forward, some of the leaders of the states that have gotten hit by like similar tragedies that, maybe it doesn't happen quite as often in some of the central states. Maybe they will kind of have a different perspective going forward on that sort of issue.
Yeah, no, and it was a sad story. Keep in mind, over 50 people actually died over the past week because of everything that's happening in Texas. So, I mean, it's sad to see what's happening down there. It's sad to see that even amidst something like this, there's political outrage. It doesn't help when a guy like Ted Cruz, who is one of the political faces for Texas, flees his own state and goes to another country to get warm when the rest of his state is freezing and dying because of the cold. And he's not hanging around to be with the ship as it goes down and to help fix the situation. And it's an awful thing to see. But, I think that was a big story that came out of this week. Episode 20, I'm glad we had everyone back on the show here. We had a lot to talk about tonight. I appreciate everyone coming on the show. And guys, hopefully next time we talk, the rest. What, Austin? What? Let me do an outro here. What?
Let the dude do his outro.
What about Richie's story?
Richie mentioned that he wasn't doing his story because we had 2 stories for you.
Yeah, you got a double story, bro.
I didn't hear that. I'm sorry. I was trying to preserve
the
sanctity. I was looking out for another cast member. I'm sorry. Jeez.
Also, Richie never wants to share his story. He's always like, I hope they forget about me.
Troy, you got to play the clip. I forgot we made it until right now.
Oh, do you want to do that then?
No.
Look,
he's only here for the ads.
The ads, right. Yeah.
On that note,
plug for myself. Poland music.
On that note, episode 20. Yep. On that note, episode 20, Can We Just Talk, in the books. Hopefully next week we'll come around. The rest of the country will be maybe warmed up a little bit and we'll be on happier notes with what's going on down south. We'll see if Ted Cruz stays around that long. Again, this has been episode 20 of Can We Just Talk. Make sure to keep it locked here. We're going to have more content coming out this week. Maybe Chris will finally have his ears pierced when we get to episode 21. Everyone fingers crossed on that. But again, thanks to everyone listening, watching, however you are experiencing this right now. We appreciate you following along, and we are excited to get back to it again next week. Again, this has been Can We Just Talk?